Let's go ahead and call things to order. And if Stephanie, are you your official clerk for this meeting? Will you please call the
I
roll?
am. Yes. Okay. Mr. Goodwin, Mr. Mulligan, Mr. Saldani, Mr. Robertson,
Here.
Mr. Hartwig.
Present.
Through the chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We'll move on then to the approval of the consent items. Are there any corrections or additions from our last meeting here? None from staff. I'm not seeing a whole lot of nodding heads then from our board members. So if there's none, I'll entertain a motion to approve items 9 through 12.
I'll move as submitted.
Thanks, Jerry.
Second.
Thanks, Andy. All right. If Stephanie, if you'll call roll on that, please, since we're on
Public
Zoom.
comment, is there?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not on my. It's not on here. If it's not on the script, I can't do it amend. So
That's okay. It gives me something to, type in about.
Fair enough. All right. Is there any public comment on this?
Through the chair, we have no indication of public comment right now.
Thank you so much. All right. Then if you please call the roll.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Mr. Robertson,
Yes.
Mr. Hartwig.
Yes.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, then we will move on then to the public hearing portion of things here. And I will ask any witnesses who intend to testify today, please stand and raise your right hand so that the board may swear you in. So let's see here. So that includes everybody here. Thank you, John. I see John raising his hand there too. Appreciate that. Both Johns, actually. There we go. Thanks. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in the matters pending before the hearing board today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. That then takes us then to docket number, docket number C-15-36D, stipulated order of abatement. And I see a lot of newer faces here, people that I recognize, but a lot of folks that haven't been before the board. So I'll just give a real quick rundown. Staff will just provide a report, and then there'll be opportunity for questions from the board and any public members as well. And then we'll take a vote on any motion that might come forward. So who's going to take this item today?
That'll be me, Daniel.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Stagnero. Go for it.
All right, thanks, everyone. Thanks, Daniel. Good morning. My name is John Stagnero. I'm the Director of Compliance for the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. And the first item before you this morning, docket number C-15-36D, is the recommendation to terminate the stipulated order of abatement, which was executed in December of 2015 to address a lack of economically feasible alternatives to agricultural open burning of large removal projects at that time. And in accordance with condition number 8 of the stipulated order of abatement, this recommendation to terminate it is based on the existence of an economically feasible alternative. So as a bit of background, in December of 2015, the district brought before you a stipulated order of abatement to allow agricultural operations to conduct open burning of agricultural waste from orchard removals greater than 15 acres in size, which had been prohibited. And the stipulated order of abatement was in response to 6 of the 11 valley-based biomass plants, which accounted for nearly 50% of the total biomass capacity, closing down. The loss of that capacity had considerably reduced the available options to dispose of agricultural wood waste, especially material from large removal projects. As a result, many agricultural growers lost the primary economically feasible disposal option for their removal material. This could not have come at a worse time, as there had been an increase in the number of large removals over the prior year, due in large part to the effects of the extreme drought emergency. And so there are numerous growers who had approached the district with removal material sitting in the fields, and due to the lack of sufficient biomass capacity, had no other cost-effective option to clear their fields. With that insufficient biomass capacity and the inability to burn the material, these valley growers faced losing tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars due to the real possibility of being unable to replant the fields with new crops. And so since that stipulated order of abatement was executed, the district has continued its efforts to phase out agricultural open burning in order to protect public health. To support this effort and to increase the availability of open burning alternatives, in 2018, the district's governing board authorized the creation of the Alternatives to Agricultural Open Burning Incentive Program. This program provides financial incentives to commercial agricultural operations located within the district boundaries to chip agricultural material. And that chip material is then used for soil incorporation or land application on agricultural land as an alternative to burning the material. And since the program was adopted in 2018, the district's governing board has allocated over $25 million in local funding to that program. And then in August of 2021, just last year, the district received $178,200,000 in additional state funding for the program, which was the result of significant advocacy from the district and Valley agricultural stakeholders. The funding there is designed to assist the district in developing new alternative practices to dispose of agricultural waste that would otherwise be burned, to increase the fleet capacity for chipping in the Valley, and to offset the incremental cost of implementing new alternatives to open burning. And so with this new funding, so far 1.5 million acres have been disposed of using the Alternative to Ag Burning program since September 1st of 2021. With the vast majority of those acres utilizing on-site chipping and reincorporation of material into the soil. And one final point, as a result of the district's efforts to support alternative practices, the last burn project conducted under the stipulated order of abatement occurred in October of 2020. So keeping that in mind, as well as the ongoing successful implementation of the district's Alternative to Agricultural Open Burning Incentive Program, the issues which gave rise to the need for the stipulated order of abatement no longer exist, and it is no longer necessary. And for this reason, the district recommends that your hearing board vote to terminate the stipulated order of abatement. Thanks everyone for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks, John. Is there any questions? Jerry, I see you unmuted there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what does this mean going forward for growers that want assistance with orchard removal or?
So we have the grant program or the incentive program, which will try and make work for anyone that has a removal project that they need to move forward with. But should there be a grower that has a removal that is not compatible with soil reincorporation, then we are open to working with them to understand their specific situation and potentially enter into an individualized or project-specific stipulated order of abatement.
Thank you.
Andy, go ahead. You unmuted.
Yeah, so the chipping machines, how do they work? Are they fossil fuel powered or electric?
Commonly fossil fuel powered.
Interesting. Okay. And are there still biomass plants in the area that will take ag waste?
There are, yes, there's still some, but not nearly as many as there used to be.
Okay.
John, will growers still have the ability? I mean, you kind of alluded to it here, but I would assume the growers will still have the ability to file for a variance if they if they had disease issues or something like that, where you have to burn because you can't reincorporate something that's diseased and put it into the soil because you ruin a potential future crop or something like that. Will growers still have that opportunity?
That's correct, Daniel. Yes, they would.
Yeah, Daniel, we have a disease crop code, so we get documentation from ag commissioners and consultants that provide information, and then we can burn under the disease crop code in SMS in those situations.
Okay. I appreciate that, Clay. Thank you. Jerry, go ahead.
Question to the chair is, what is the percentage or what's the preferred method the growers, are they reintroducing it into the soil or is it going to the biomass?
Those that participate in the alternative incentive program tend to reincorporate it into the soil. There's more incentive dollars available for that. And so that seems to be the favorite option for them.
And how much assistance do they get? Is it about an acre or how do they?
It's by acre and it's up to $1,000 per acre, depending on the crop type. If it's a vineyard with wires in it, then there's more incentive dollars, and you get more incentive dollars as well, as I mentioned, for the reincorporation into the soil as opposed to land application or broadcasting the chips on top of the land. So there's different tiers of reimbursement depending on the specifics of the project. And it's, yeah, per acre.
How long do you project the incentives to continue? Is it until the dollars run out, or is this going to be a continual?
This 178 million that we received is certainly a long-term commitment to fund this program. And we'll continue to work with the state and all the resources that we have at our disposal to keep this program active and maintain it for as long as possible. I foresee it lasting for quite some time with the funding that we have available now.
All right, thank you, John.
John, how much did you guys spend on, I mean, how much did you guys spend to last, like, I mean, that funding came through last summer, I think, if I remember, it was in last year's budget. How much incentive dollars did you guys outlay on this program basically the last year?
Good question, Daniel. I'd have to look that up. I do know that there were the 1.5 million acres that have been disposed of. So I'd have to look and see how much money that equates to. That's the acres.
And I'm kind of curious about that number too. You mentioned that in your report, that 1.5 million acres seems really high. I mean, there's only 1.2 million acres of almonds and, a couple 100,000 acres of vines. I'm not 100% sure on that 1.5 million acres that you're talking about there.
Yeah,
could there be other crops that you guys are thinking about there, or
through the alternative program, it would only be removals?
John, I think there's a 0 that was added or something, because yeah, that's way more acres than we would have ever even come close to burning in a 5-year period or anything like that. So I think that's just a typo.
Okay. Thanks, Clay. Perhaps 150,000 then.
Okay, that seems a little more realistic. I was just trying to kind of wrap my mind around that number there. Andy, you had a question.
Yeah, has there been any pushback from the ag industry for ending this stipulated order of abatement?
Good question, Andy. No, we've communicated with Valley stakeholders, and they're in support of this recommendation.
Yeah, as president of the Farm Bureau, I would say that I'm actually I'm okay with what's being proposed. I've talked to some of their ag groups as well to confirm. So I think from our standpoint, we're fine with what the district's proposing here. So, all right. Is there any other questions by board members? Great questions today, John. I appreciate you providing some good answers here for us. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it. I'll ask, is there any public comment on this matter?
Through the chair, we have no indication of public comment on this item.
Thank you. Is there anything else to add, staff? You guys like to do anything else you guys have to add here at all? John, Clay?
Not at this time, Daniel.
Okay. Then with that being said, I'll accept a motion if anybody's willing to make one.
I'll try to stumble through it. I may need some assistance.
And this is your opportunity to really guide us through here. So I'm counting on you to be our shining light.
It can be as simple as move to approve staff's recommendation.
Move to approve staff's recommendation.
That's all you need.
Thank you, Annette.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Andy. All right, Stephanie, if you'll call the roll, please, on this vote.
I do want to state for the record that Mr. David Saldani did just join us. Okay, so I'll start with the roll call. Mr. Mulligan? Oh, sorry,
I'm sorry, did we call for public comment?
We did.
Okay, I'm sorry if I missed that.
Okay, Mr. Mulligan? Mr. Mulligan, do I hear a yes or a?
Yes,
Thumbs up.
aye.
Anything? Okay, thank you. Mr. Saldani?
Aye.
Mr. Robertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Hartwig?
Yes.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Thank you. I appreciate the time, guys. Thank you. Thanks, John, for coming in and for dressing up so nicely for us as well. So,
Have me, Daniel.
appreciate it. All right, we'll move on then to let's see here. What do we got? I got to scroll back up here. Docket number C-22-08S, the short variance for Guardian Industries LLC, and I see Mr. Roach has joined us as well. But if he'd introduce himself here as well.
Hello, everyone. John Roche, the HS manager for Guardian Industries.
Thank you. And we'll turn things over to staff. Who gets the pleasure of doing this one here?
That would be me.
Thank you, Estella.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Again, this is Estela Soto, and I am an air quality specialist here with the district. And before you is Guardian Industries LLC. They operate a float glass manufacturing facility with a 212 MMBTU per hour natural gas-fired glass melting furnace. And in order to control the emissions, the furnace exhaust is routed through an emission control system that includes a dry scrubber, an electrostatic precipitator or EP, and a selective catalytic reduction SCR system. Guardian has plans to shut down the dry scrubber, the EP, and the SCR system in order to inspect and clean the EP. The EP operates by establishing a high voltage electric charge on the discharge plates inside the unit. Particulate matter from the exhaust stream passes through the discharge plates, receiving an electrical charge. The charged particulate is then deposited on the grounded collector plates. Upstream of the EP, the dry scrubber uses injected trona as a reactant to reduce SOx from the exhaust. This material accumulates on the internal components of the EP, and the buildup can cause a short, reducing the effectiveness of the EP unless it is cleaned. After cleaning the EP, Guardian must then clean the continuous opacity monitoring system, or COMS, and optical stack flow meter to ensure that no material has accumulated on the lenses, which leads to erroneous readings. To conduct the maintenance, the furnace exhaust stream must bypass the emission control devices. District Rule 4354 allows for excess emissions for up to 144 hours per year during maintenance of the emissions control devices. Guardian currently has about 120 maintenance hours remaining. However, Guardian's facility-wide permit and District Rule 4101 do not allow for excess visible emissions during routine maintenance of the emission control devices. Guardian does expect excess visible emissions to be brief but high, and estimates that they will primarily occur within the initial stages of the bypass. During the transition into bypass mode for cleaning, the dampers are moved that have trona built up in them. Moving the dampers will knock the trona material loose, and it is frequently blown out of the stack, generating high opacity readings detected by the COMS. The variance protection is necessary because the glass melting furnace, once heated up, operates nonstop for many years in what is known as a campaign. It cannot be shut off without causing significant damage to the furnace. A glass melting furnace takes several days to shut down and several weeks to get back to operational temperature. Therefore, Guardian has requested a short variance from the applicable requirements of district rules, in addition to the applicable conditions of the subject permits. The requested short variance will be for a non-consecutive 56-hour period to occur sometime between June 15th and August 31st, 2022 inclusive. And if the variance is granted, it will allow the continued operation of the glass melting furnace and the continued glass production with excess visible emissions, while Guardian shuts down the emission control system in order to perform the routine maintenance on the EP. The district believes that the required findings as set forth in the California Health and Safety Code can be made, and recommends that Guardian be granted the short variance with the conditions on pages 4 and 5 of the staff report. And that concludes the district's presentation.
Thank you, Estella.
Thank you.
Mr. Roche, you have anything to add here?
Yeah, well, the reason for this variance is a result of issues with the EP itself. We had a previous emergency variance that Mr. Arwood approved to clean out the EP by blowing down externally to buy us some time to do a fix on the EP itself. We found that the internal wrapping system for field 1 has been an issue, and we need to allow for this time to make an entry. And we're going to be using contractors to go in to make entry and repair the wrapping system.
Thank you. Is there any questions from our esteemed board members here? Andy?
Yeah, will your continuous emissions monitoring system remain in operation during this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions from board members here? All right, seeing none, then I'll ask if any member of the public wishes to be heard on this matter.
Through the chair, we have no indication of public comment on this item.
Thank you. Well, and then Ms. Roche, you're fine with with all the conditions and everything of the variance, I presume?
Yes.
All right. So with that, that being said, then I'll entertain a motion here if anybody's wanting to make one.
I move to approve Guardian Industry LLC's petition for a short variance set forth in docket number C-22-08S with the required 6 findings of the Health and Safety Code adopted by reference as set forth in the staff report. Variance shall be effective for the period from June 15th, 2022 through August 21st, 2022, or until the work has been completed and the emission control devices are returned to compliant operation, whichever occurs first, and shall be subject to the conditions on pages 4 to 5 of the staff report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second, but I had August 31st as the end date.
Yeah, August 31st should be the end date.
My apologies.
Was that a friendly amendment to your motion there?
Not intentional.
Oh, there you go. All right, so we have a friendly amendment to that motion. We have a second. Then, and that I'm assuming we're good with it. Give me a thumbs up if we are. Then perfect. All right. So then, Stephanie, if you'll call the roll, please. Then.
Mr. Mulligan?
Aye.
Mr. Saldani?
Aye.
Mr. Robertson?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwig?
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Roach, you are good to go.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. All right, that takes us to the next item, C-22-09S, a short variance for Era Energy LLC out in Coalinga, just over the hills from where I'm looking at right now. So I will, let's see, we will ask those representatives to introduce themselves, then I'll turn things over to staff. If there are any representatives from Era.
Yes, Aaron's here.
Eric, you said?
Aaron, yeah.
Oh, Aaron. All right, perfect.
Albrecht, yeah. Is that correct? Hi, Aaron.
Hi, it's Albrecht. Yeah.
Albrecht,
Yeah.
sorry. All right, great. My name is Shannon Moore. I'm an air quality specialist here at the district, and before you this morning is Era Energy LLC. They operate equipment associated with the production and storage of crude oil and gas within the Coalinga oil field. Fluids from wells are piped to the Section 32 dehydration facility or the Pin-Zyre dehydration facility for processing. Vapors from the operation are collected by a vapor recovery system, treated for sulfur, and then routed to steam generators for incineration. As required by district rules and the permit conditions, the vapor recovery system must be operated and maintained in a leak-free condition at all times. On May 3rd, 2022, ERA personnel discovered a blockage in the tank vapor recovery line at the Section 32 dehydration facility. ERA consulted with the district regarding a variance and were advised to install a temporary line while a permanent replacement line is built, and then to petition for a short variance at the June 15 Central Region Hearing Board. ERA installed the temporary line and has continued to operate in compliance with the temporary line in place. However, in order to install the permanent replacement line, they will need to shut down the tank vapor recovery system for a short time. Therefore, ERA is seeking a short variance from requirements of the applicable district rules. In addition to applicable conditions of the subject permits, the requested short variance would be for a consecutive 24-hour period to occur sometime between June 20th, 2022 and July 20th, 2022 inclusive. If granted, the variance would allow ERA to continue to store VOC-containing liquids at the Section 32 dehydration facility without a functional or operating vapor recovery system while they repair a damaged section of the tank vapor recovery line. In addition, it will allow wells with closed casing gas vents to produce into tanks that do not have a functional or operating vapor recovery system. Based on ERA's calculations, excess VOC emissions are estimated to be no more than 260 pounds over the full 24-hour variance period. The district has reviewed the calculations and finds them to be adequate for variance purposes. The district believes the required findings as set forth in the California Health and Safety Code can be made and recommends that ERA Energy LLC be granted a short variance with conditions on pages 4, 5, and 6. And that concludes the district's presentation.
Thanks, Shannon. Mr. Albrecht, do you have anything to add to the presentation here?
No, that was a great summary there. Everything was in place. So
Okay. Are there any members of the hearing board that have any questions here? I see none, and I think, or Andy, you've unmuted. There you go.
Yeah, so you have to bear with me. I don't know much about your process here. The emissions are expected to be emitted through relief valves on the tanks. Is that right?
right. So they have PRV valves that are weighted that anytime the tank has say it heats up or anything like that, it allows the tank to vent. And that's in addition to the TVR unit, which is not going to be shut down. So it just keeps the tanks from rupturing, and it also that's just standard operation for a tank to have those.
Okay. So 260 pounds over a 24-hour period seems like a lot to me. Is there any concern about flammable gas venting through those safety devices?
Well, that typically the tanks are water tanks, so it's pretty saturated vapor as far as the water content of it, and it's pretty low VOC content too. So that's a heavy oil operation, and so it's not like a light oil that has a lot more vapor pressure. So it's not, and these tanks are hooked together, so it's got a vapor balance system too. So any kind of if the tank goes up on one side, or if it pressures up a little bit due to the temperature, then that's also included as part of the controls on the tank. So,
okay. And would there be any mitigation measure that could economically be put on these vents? I know like flaring or something like that, or some kind of capture mechanism. Again, economically, I know.
I think it's pretty small amounts, so it's hard to capture that, and it disperses pretty quickly, and plus I think the water content's going to be pretty high, inside those tanks. So.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Great questions here. Any other questions here from the hearing board members? All right. Any member of the public that has any questions?
Through the chair, we have no indication of public comment on this item.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Albrecht, you've reviewed the conditions of the variance. You're fine with them?
Yes.
All right. Well, with that being said, then I'll entertain a motion if anybody's willing to make one.
I'll see if I can get the dates right this time. I move to approve Era Energy LLC's petition for a short variance set forth in docket number C-22-09S with the required 6 findings of the health and safety code adopted by reference as set forth in the staff report. Variance shall be effective for the period from June 20th, 2022 through July 20th, 2022, or until the damaged section of line on the tank VRS is replaced and the VRS is returned to compliant operation, whichever occurs first, and shall be subject to the conditions on pages 4 to 6 of the staff report.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jerry. All right, with that, then Stephanie, I'll ask you to call the roll, please.
Okay, Mr. Mulligan,
Aye.
Mr. Saldani,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Mr. Hartwig.
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Thank you very much. Then let's see, that gets us through that portion of the agenda here. We'll go to public comment number 5 here. Do we have a couple people that I don't recognize their names on here? Is that members of the public or is that staff?
It looks like we have one member of the public attending, but no indication of public comment at this time.
Okay. All right, then if there's no public comment, then I'll go to item number 6 in the hearing board member comments. Any member of the hearing board has any comments that they'd like to make? All right, number 7's then new business, and I don't see anything there. Annette, just real quick.
Yeah, I wanted to just introduce you to Acela Wells. I think she may be the individual here that whose name you don't recognize. She's our new assistant counsel. And she's been with us now, I think you're working on your 3rd week this week, Acela, yeah. And so she has taken Jesse's place, who, as you know, has moved on to bigger and better things. And so by your next hearing board, Acela will be taking over representing the hearing board.
Awesome.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Acela.
Daniel, also, we have a former member that's here at the meeting. Patrick Houlihan has been promoted to be a supervisor in the planning department.
Awesome. Congratulations, Patrick.
Thank you. Yep, with Jesse, Jesse wooed me over, so I'll be moving over to help her and assist her in attainment plans, maintenance plans, and rule amendment and development.
A lot of internal wooing going on there. It sounds like at the Air District then. So good for you guys all moving on up like George Jefferson once there. So. Cool. Well, and then is there any update on? I'm assuming we're with regards to meetings and things like that. Public, if we're meeting in person or meeting. We didn't talk about it last month. I think just if there's any update there.
Yeah, each month the governing board has to adopt a resolution determining whether or not conditions still exist that would make it advisable to continue to hold these meetings, by teleconference and remotely the way we have been for the last 2 years. And at the governing board meeting tomorrow, the staff recommendation is again to renew the resolution for another 30 days. So it has to, the resolution has to be adopted every 30 days. And especially right now with cases rising and, the governor has not formally lifted his emergency order yet as far as the pandemic is concerned. And so at this time, we expect for at least the next 30 days for this format to continue. So it's kind of a month by month thing.
Okay, I think you had mentioned two meetings ago too. It's just we hadn't talked about it, so I just
right. Still, still where we're at.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, okay, well, with that, then I think that's all the new business. Congratulations to everybody in the new positions, and John, congratulations on getting to come before this wonderful hearing board as well, and present for the first time. So, with that, though, we'll move to adjournment. Appreciate it, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.